just want to introduce this video really quick. So in this video, I am talking about arrow number 4 in the human design chart, and I am talking about it in relationship to productivity. In the first part of this video, I'm just going to do a general overview of the arrows, like what do they mean, and why do I choose this as a framework for having a conversation around productivity. And then I'll deep dive a little bit into arrow number 4 and just some clues or insights it might give us and things we can try to be more in flow and feel more productive. All right, so I want to introduce the 4 arrows in human design, and I want to share a little bit why I'm using that as a framework for a larger conversation around productivity. So if you think human design is a bit woo and it's a little crazy and you're like, I'm not sure about this, I still invite you to stick around, because really the conversation is less about the arrows and it's more about, is more structure or more fluidity supportive to you in your life to be and feel more in flow and more productive, okay? So let me just get into the arrows really quick. If you pull your body graph chart or you look at one online, you're going to see that there's 4 arrows at the top of the body graph chart. Those arrows can point either left or right, each one. And whether it's pointed left or right means something different. So in human design, they represent what's called the 4 transformations. The first transformation is digestion. The second is environment. The third is perspective. And the last one is awareness. So the arrows in a nutshell tell us how we relate to the world around us and how we're designed to take in information. And I believe that even in talking about the arrows in a very simple way can give us insight on how we might be more productive. So my first point, this conversation is the tip of the iceberg. A human design body graph chart is so complex. There's so much information in it. So just know, like if you're even thinking about the 4 arrows, there's 16 possible different combinations that somebody can have. And so if you think about it, if you think there's like rubber bands attached to each arrow, they kind of have this push and a pull amongst each other, depending if they're left or they're right. So I really recommend that if you really want to understand at a deep level what your arrows mean for you, have a conversation with your favorite human design expert, okay? Because they're going to be the ones who really tell you what it means for you. I'm going to be very reductive and simplistic when I'm talking about the arrows in relation to productivity. So I don't want any of my human design peers to get upset with me. So just be really aware that this is a very simple conversation. There's a lot of complexity, so you'd really want to talk to an expert if you want to understand what your dynamic looks like and what it means for you. All right, so my second point that I need to really hammer in here is experts in human design tell us that we should really not worry about the advanced information in the arrows of our chart until after we have mastered our energy type. So specifically our strategy and our authority for our energy type. So if you are new to human design, I highly recommend go get your chart, put in your information, see what your energy type is. You'll be one of 5 different energy types. And really kind of understand what your strategy and authority is and start learning to master that before worrying too much about the details of all the other things in your chart. All that said, I'm being called to speak to the more advanced information in the arrows in a very simplistic way, just to kind of have this conversation around productivity. So just keep that in mind. The last thing I want to say is, again, like my disclaimer, is no tool or personality typing, whether it's human design, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, like name it, whatever colors, like should define us, okay? We should never be feeling like we're put into a box. So in every video that I do on this, I recommend you lean into your own tuition and what feels right for you versus what some, report tells you about yourself. So I just really want to make that really clear. Okay, so I'm going to get into the arrows now. And thanks for listening. All right, so let's talk about arrow number 4. Arrow number 4 is located in the top right-hand side of the body graph chart. And this arrow tells us something about our mind and our awareness. So how do we think about things and how are we processing information. So if your arrow points left, for example, what this says about you is you likely have a strategic awareness. So you probably have a logical mind, a very factual mind, and mastering details maybe comes easy or is important to you. It's also energetically correct for you to kind of just shut the world out and just laser focus in on the things whenever you need to do that. You also probably have a low tolerance for ambiguity, especially when it comes to learning new things. I mean, your logical mind really requires people to be very clear and to take in information in a very clear way. So, and finally, you probably like working with numbers, absolutes, or, even just seeing the patterns and things. If your arrow points right, what that means is that you have more of a receptive awareness. So think of a person with more of a creative or imaginative mind. Think, I guess, right-brained as well. And you see the key connections and deeper meanings in things. It's energetically correct for you to have more of an open focus or an open awareness. And, that can lead to a lot of insights and really deep understandings for this person. This person's going to see things, the nuances and things that other people are not going to see. And they may think in creativity. They may think in color. They may think in pop culture. So this person is just going to be very just creative and imaginative in the way they approach processing information. All right, so let's just throw away the human design stuff for a minute and let's just talk about logical brain versus more of a creative brain. It's really important for me to say that I believe that the reason we don't feel productive, we are not productive, or we don't feel in flow is because we are trying to be something we are not, or leaning into things that are not like our innate gifts, right? So if you identify as somebody who is more of a logical, factual energy, it doesn't mean you're never creative. It doesn't mean that creative outlets aren't helpful to you. And if you're a right-brained, creative person, it doesn't mean you're never logical or that you don't utilize logic in your day-to-day to get things done. What I would suggest, though, is that if you are a logical brain, really trying to lean into those gifts. So, for example, if you find there are topics that you are very easily, or projects that you're very easily able to laser focus on and just shut out the world, I think those are clues to your passions. Those are clues to maybe your purpose in life, okay? And that means you're on the right track. If you're a creative brain and you find topics or subjects that make you ask a lot of questions and make you want to deep dive and understand a deeper meaning about the thing, whatever it is, those are clues about the passions or the things in your life. And that also tells you that you're on the right track. You're following the right rabbit holes, okay? On the other side, with more of a logical or factual energy, I would say lean into, from a learning perspective, and I'm not an expert. I do have a background in medical education, but I would not call myself a teacher or an expert in education. But just talking about it through this lens, if you're learning something new and you have a more of a factual energy, you want to think about leveraging memorization, Google memorization techniques, find the ones that resonate with you, and also don't be afraid to get into the details of the thing. Don't settle for ambiguity, okay? If you're more of a right brain and you're learning something new, you want to be starting with the whole big picture. So if you're looking at a course, for example, and you're being, fed like little details in each week, for example, maybe wait, if you can, maybe wait a few weeks or do some research on your own to understand the big picture of the subject that you're studying. Because you're going to be somebody who's going to create your own and identify your own patterns within that subject matter through the way you take in information. So take in the whole thing first if you can to get a lay of the land, and then start going into the details. So I hope this conversation was helpful. I really am passionate about the fact that we don't get things done the same way, that we should kind of ignore what the status quo says productivity looks like. And I think really leaning into our gifts and leaning into the things that we're good at is really going to get us further than trying to like force ourselves to be super consistent or force ourselves to be disciplined. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please go ahead and pop them in the comments. Thanks.